She never got to spend a single dollar of the fortune she spent 15 years fighting for, and she died in a hotel room with 11 different drugs in her system, most of them prescribed under someone else's name. The tabloids built a punchline out of her. Courts labeled her a gold digger. Audiences laughed at her slurred speeches and stumbling public appearances, treating her pain like scheduled programming. But nobody asked the real question. What actually broke Anna Nicole Smith? Not the money, not the fame, and certainly not the elderly billionaire she married. Something quieter did it, something far more devastating, and by the time anyone looked closely enough to see it, she was already gone. What follows is the full story, the parts buried under the circus, the parts that never made the evening news, and the parts still unfolding through an 18-year-old girl who never got the chance to know her mother. Vicki Lynn Hogan arrived in the world on November 28, 1967, in Houston, Texas, and loss found her before she was old enough to name it. Before her second birthday, her parents divorced. Her father disappeared almost entirely from her life, and her mother, Vi Mae Hogan, relocated with little Vicki to Mexia, a small Texas town of roughly 6,000 people, where the exits were few and the expectations were lower. School never worked for her, not academically, not socially, and by the time she reached 10th grade, the system had essentially given up on her. At 14, she dropped out entirely. No diploma, no plan, just a teenage girl in a dead-end town with a dream so outsized it almost seemed cruel. That dream was to be Marilyn Monroe. Not inspired by her, not similar to her, she wanted to carry that same magnetism that could silence a room without saying a word. A waitress job at Jim's Crispy Fried Chicken in Mexia put her in the same orbit as Billy Wayne Smith, a 16-year-old fry cook, and they moved the way young people trapped in small towns always move, fast, forward, and without looking back. By April 1985, when Anna was just 17, they were married, and on January 22, 1986, she gave birth to their son, Danniel Wayne Smith, becoming a mother at 18 with no money and a husband who turned controlling and jealous almost immediately. By mid-1986, she had gathered Danniel and left for Houston, starting from nothing all over again. Houston offered no soft landing. Walmart, Red Lobster, whatever paid, she worked it, and it still wasn't enough to keep her and her infant son stable. Strip clubs were next, and she never dressed that chapter up into something it wasn't, because the point was survival and nothing else. That changed in 1992, when she made the kind of decision that requires a specific combination of desperation and nerve. She photographed herself and mailed the pictures to Playboy magazine. Hugh Hefner's team recognized something rare in those photos, and by March 1992, Vicki Lynn Hogan's face was on the cover of Playboy. Playmate of the Year followed in 1993, and almost overnight, a woman who had been flipping burgers and dancing for tips became one of the most recognized models in the country. Paul Marciano, co-founder of Guess Jeans, spotted her next and offered a major modeling contract. And it was through that partnership that the name Anna Nicole was born, shaped between Marciano and the woman who would carry it into every room she entered for the rest of her life. Her first Guess campaign replaced supermodel Claudia Schiffer at a moment when the fashion world was obsessed with thinness, and Anna Nicole walked in with curves and old Hollywood heat, her look drawn from Jane Mansfield's iconography, her black and white photographs becoming instant reference points for a different kind of beauty. Billboards across Sweden and Norway followed, then contracts with H&M and Lane Bryant, then Hollywood, a role alongside Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun 33, and a smaller part in the Coen brothers film The Hudsucker Proxy, both in 1994. Critics were not generous, but criticism had never stopped her before, and it did not stop her then. Later, she would become the face of Trim Spa, a diet supplement brand that kept her name in circulation, even as the nature of that attention shifted from admiration to mockery. The strip club in Houston is where the chapter that consumed the rest of her life actually began. Back in October 1991, before the Playboy cover, before Guess, before any of it, Anna was still pulling day shifts at Gigi's because she was new to dancing. That night, an 86-year-old oil billionaire named J. Howard Marshall II walked in, brought there by his driver who wanted to lift his spirits after a brutal year. Marshall had lost both his wife and his longtime mistress within months of each other. Anna danced to Lady in Red, and something about her stopped him completely. The next day he reached out, took her to lunch, and pressed $1,000 into her hand before she left, telling her not to go back to the club. What followed over the next 3 years was a courtship the public never agreed on. Monthly payments he called consulting fees, a red Mercedes, diamonds, jewelry, and marriage proposals she declined again and again. Her explanation, offered years later to Larry King, was that she needed to prove she could make it on her own before accepting anything from anyone. And by 1994, she felt she had. On June 27, 1994, at the White Dove Wedding Chapel in Houston, they were married. He was 89, she was 26, and only 11 people witnessed it. Marshall sat in a wheelchair while Anna wore a white satin gown with a plunging neckline, and her 8-year-old son Daniel served as the ring bearer. The ceremony finished in minutes. Before the evening ended, Anna left for a photo shoot, and Marshall remained in his wheelchair and wept. That image, the old man alone and crying after his own wedding, became the photograph the public used to make its decision about who she was. She maintained until her death that what Marshall gave her was love and respect, 2 things she had rarely been offered before. 14 months later, on August 4th, 1995, J. Howard Marshall II died at 90, and what came next was 15 years of legal warfare that reached the highest court in the country. Marshall had allegedly promised Anna half of his estate, a fortune built significantly on a stake in Koch Industries valued at over $1 billion. But his will contained her name nowhere. His son, E. Pierce Marshall, stepped forward immediately, insisting the will was final and she was entitled to nothing. A second son, J. Howard Marshall III, had also been cut out after attempting to take control of Koch Industries. He claimed the same verbal promise and received the same result. Financial trouble hit Anna in 1996 when a court ordered her to pay $850,000 following a sexual harassment lawsuit from her son's former nanny, and unable to cover it, she filed for bankruptcy in California. That filing pulled her inheritance claim into bankruptcy court, and in 2000, a Los Angeles bankruptcy judge awarded her nearly $450 million, representing the gain in value of Marshall's Koch Industries shares during their marriage. Within a year, a Texas probate judge had erased that ruling entirely and ordered her to pay E. Pierce Marshall over $1 million in legal fees. A federal judge then lowered her award to $88 million, and a higher court struck that down too. The United States Supreme Court took the case in 2006 and ruled in her favor, not granting money, but confirming she could continue fighting in federal court, with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg writing the decision. 15 years, every level of the American judicial system, and she never saw a single dollar. While the courts worked through all of that, her public life was being taken apart in a different way entirely. The Anna Nicole Show premiered on E! On August 4th, 2002, and became the network's most watched program during its first season, drawing audiences who tuned in for chaos. The misbehaving dog, the eccentric interior decorator Bobby Trendy, the general sense of impending collapse. Between the staged spectacle, something real was visible to anyone looking closely enough. Daniel, her teenage son, moved through nearly every episode with an expression that never quite resembled pride, watching his mother's life get packaged into entertainment, while the people producing that entertainment reportedly encouraged her erratic energy by supplying large amounts of Red Bull rather than addressing the dependency that was already well underway. Jon Stewart called the show an abomination. Critics flagged her slurred speech and unpredictable behavior, and audiences mostly just kept watching. 2 years it ran, ending in 2004, and by then Anna Nicole had become a cultural joke. Her appearance at the 2004 MTV Video Music Awards, stumbling on stage, words slurring, asking the crowd if they liked her body, got replayed endlessly as comedy. Nobody helped. Prescription drug dependency had been part of her daily life for years by that point, with Valium and chloral hydrate among her regular intake, and the people closest to her were not rushing to intervene. On June 1st, 2006, she posted a video on her website announcing her pregnancy. and on September 7th, 2006, she gave birth to a daughter named Dannielynn in the Bahamas. Her attorney and companion, Howard K. Stern, was listed on the birth certificate as the father, but celebrity photographer Larry Burkhead came forward immediately, insisting the child was his. Two other men also claimed potential paternity: Frederick Prinz von Anhalt, the husband of Zsa Zsa Gabor, and her former bodyguard, Alexander Denk. Reports emerged that Anna had been prescribed methadone under a false name while 8 months pregnant, triggering a California Medical Board investigation. A judge ordered DNA testing. The world waited. 3 days after Dannielynn was born, on September 10, 2006, Dannielynn Smith, 20 years old, Anna's firstborn, the person she described as the most important in her life, came to the hospital in Nassau to meet his newborn half-sister and never left. An autopsy confirmed he died from a combination of methadone and antidepressants. A Bahamian jury ruled it accidental. No criminal charges followed, and he was buried on October 19th at Lakeview Cemetery in New Providence. Howard K. Stern, who watched Anna from the inside, later said she physically died months after Daniel, but had already gone the day he did. She had raised him alone, been both his mother and his father, and at his funeral, she asked them to open the coffin and tried to climb inside, telling the people around her that if Daniel had to be buried, she wanted to be buried with him. On September 28th, 18 days after his death, she and Stern held a private commitment ceremony in the Bahamas. No legal marriage license, just a Baptist minister, exchanged vows and rings, photographs sold to People magazine for $1 million. Her Nassau attorney explained they needed something to hold on to after everything they had been through. February 8th, 2007 is when it ended. Anna Nicole Smith was found unresponsive in her room at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Her bodyguard's wife, a registered nurse, attempting CPR before paramedics rushed her to Memorial Regional Hospital. She was 39 years old and pronounced dead. Broward County Medical Examiner Joshua Perper led the investigation alongside Seminole police and independent forensic experts, and the official finding was accidental overdose. Chloral hydrate was the primary drug. 4 benzodiazepines, diphenhydramine, and topiramate were also in her system. Of the 11 drugs found, 8 had been prescribed under Howard K. Stern's name, 2 were listed under the name Alex Katz, and 1 had been written by her psychiatrist, Dr. Christine Eroshevich, who Perper confirmed had authored every prescription. Methadone appeared in her bile, suggesting she had taken it 2 to 3 days before her death, placing it outside the direct chain of causation. No illegal substances were found anywhere in her system. She was buried on March 2, 2007, in the Bahamas, beside Daniel, exactly where she had said she wanted to be. DNA results arrived in April 2007, confirming Larry Burkhead as Dannielynn's biological father. He brought his daughter back to the United States and made a decision early and firmly. She would grow up away from Hollywood, away from cameras, and as far from the machinery that consumed her mother as he could manage. Internet searches were blocked on her devices when she was young. Her Instagram stayed private. Every modeling offer that arrived got turned down, with one deliberate exception. At 6 years old, Dannielynn modeled for Guess Kids as a tribute to Anna Nicole's legacy with the brand. And that was it. One appearance, one tribute, and then back to ordinary life. Anna Nicole's estate, written into a will in 2001, named Daniel as sole beneficiary and Stern as executor, and specifically excluded any future children, which meant Dannielynn, just months old at the time of her mother's death, received nothing from it. The estate held personal property worth $10,000 and a house valued at $1.8 million, with a $1.1 million mortgage against it. In 2008, Anna's mother, Vi Arthur, filed a lawsuit against TMZ, CBS, Entertainment Tonight, and multiple journalists, claiming false reporting had damaged her reputation and hurt her attempts to gain visitation rights for her granddaughter. One blogger was jailed for refusing to surrender a computer as evidence. The court ultimately dismissed the case and ruled in favor of the media outlets. Dannielynn Burkhead turned 18 in September 2024 and marked it with a Beetlejuice-themed birthday party, spiderweb print dress, Dramatic sleeves, black lipstick, fully committed to the aesthetic, posing next to an actor in character with peace signs and zero self-consciousness. Larry shared a message that read, "May you continue to be humble and kind. I am immensely proud of you." Her real focus beyond the party is a double major in forensic science and Japanese studies. The first pulled from a lifelong attraction to mystery and problem solving. The second ignited by high school language classes that opened something she hadn't expected. Acting has come naturally to her, earning genuine praise in school productions, and plans for her own cosmetics and clothing line have grown more concrete with every passing year. She rides roller coasters with no hands, and specifically instructs Larry not to hold on to her. She trolls him by posting unflattering photos of him online. Concerts, amusement parks, elaborate Halloween costumes. They have built a life together that looks nothing like the one her mother was trapped inside. In January 2025, Larry arranged front-row seats to Hugh Jackman's Broadway show and organized the backstage meeting, knowing Jackman had been a childhood hero of hers, even including a life-size Jackman cutout as a joke. The backstage video went viral. Dannielynn unable to contain herself, Jackman hugging her and praising her energy during A Million Dreams. Butterflies have become a quiet symbol between Dannielynn and her mother. Small moments that feel like more than coincidence. Reminders that Anna is still somewhere nearby. A portrait of Anna Nicole hangs in Dannielynn's bedroom, a permanent fixture in the room where she studies forensic science and plans her clothing line and lives the life her mother never got to finish. When sensationalized media claims about Anna's death resurfaced in 2025, both Larry and Dannielynn issued a joint statement, short, direct, and final. They preferred to rely on living, credible sources. That line said everything worth saying. Anna Nicole Smith was not a cautionary tale, not a punchline, not a tabloid character built for entertainment. She was a woman who climbed out of real poverty through sheer force of will, fought one of the longest inheritance legal battles in American history, all the way to the United States Supreme Court, buried her son, and still got out of bed the next morning, and was failed at every turn by an industry that preferred her broken because broken made better television. The world owed her more than it ever gave her, but her daughter is 18 now, unbothered, unbroken, and only just getting started.